The Chesapeake Bay is home to some of the largest and most diverse tidal salt marshes on the Atlantic coast of the United States, with more than 200,000 acres. It's amazing to have such vast wild wetlands within a close distance of major East Coast cities like Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. When you're out in these huge marshes, it feels like you're in a vast wilderness, because essentially you are. There are places where you can barely see the trees on the mainland across 4 or 5 miles of open marsh. The tidal marshes are a unique environment. The salinity and the daily flooding regime means that there are not many plant species that can live there, and this creates a wide open intertidal prairie of grasses and rushes where only a few different birds and other animal species can thrive.
We need to start thinking about what we're going to do about climate change now and its effects. Scientists are estimating that even if we radically reduced our carbon dioxide emissions now, we'll feel the effects way into the future, even centuries. So it's critically important that we start planning now how we're going to adapt to those changes. Defenders of Wildlife is working with the Lower Shore Land Trust and Audubon Maryland to think about how sea level rise will affect the tidal marshes of the Chesapeake Bay here in Maryland. We need to plan ahead because as the sea level rises, as the tides get higher, we will need to think about what is upslope of those areas and think about conserving those lands now so that the marsh has some place to go.
Over the last 20 years, the Lower Shore Land Trust has been working with landowners to preserve working farms and forests. And we recognize now that sea level rise and climate change are going to impact our region. The marsh is a valuable resource for our community, including fishing, hunting, resources with recreation and tourism. And the Lower Shore is a mecca for tourism. Ecotourism is really a wonderful thing going on here. Lots of waterways, creeks, streams to paddle along. And you know, when we look at how things are going to change over the next 50 to 100 years, we have to realize that it's not just the conservation values that are going to be affected, but it's going to be our economy for recreation and tourism. In some of our low-lying areas with a lot of marsh, we're recognizing that that marsh is going to need to migrate upland. As sea level rise occurs, we're looking at ways that we can adapt our easements and the ways that we manage land use to accommodate these changes. The Lower Shore Land Trust is in the initial stages of planning for our sea level rise and climate change. We know that this is not going to happen overnight, but we know we need to plan now.
The bird community of the salt marshes is unique. There are a few species which live nowhere else, and among these are some rare and declining species, including the salt marsh sparrow. This bird is confined in its global range to the upper levels of the marsh between Maine and Virginia, and it may well be the bird that is most at risk of extinction as a result of sea level rise in the United States. Other species like the clapper rail, the willet, and the seaside sparrow also breed only in salt marshes. They're more widespread, but still these birds are very much at risk from sea level rise. Over the last century, sea levels in the Chesapeake Bay have risen by 1 foot, and significant areas of marshes have been lost as a result. However, during the next century, up until the year 2100, it's predicted that sea levels will rise a further 1 meter, which is 3 feet. And this rise would be enough to inundate virtually all of the coastal marshes in the Chesapeake Bay region. So there's a very real threat of virtual entire loss of this ecosystem and its birds over the next 90 years. Addressing the planning that's going to be necessary to save our East Coast salt marshes and make sure that we have marshes for tomorrow is going to take partnerships with a variety of members, including local and state and federal governments, agencies, non-profit organizations, and experts in the field, as well as a willing and interested public.